Apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future homebuyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of homeownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.any-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@any-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. AnyMac Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC. DBA AnyMac Home Mortgage. Lo-Fi Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent. License Lender. Broker number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License number MC 338923. Rhode Island License Lender. License number 201128110L. Call for additional details.
Welcome to Sport Talk with R&J. I'm Steve Risser, along with Justin and Alfredo. So the Knicks made a big move. We got a big series with the Yankees and Red Sox this weekend. But we got to start with the NBA Finals between the Pacers and the Thunder. And we got the best offensive team in basketball with the Pacers versus, the best defensive team with the Thunder. Should be an interesting series between these two teams. I mean, the Thunder, pretty easy ride to the finals outside of that one series against Denver as they swept Memphis and they beat Denver in 7 and they beat Minnesota in 5. And then you look at the Pacers, they beat the Bucks in 5, upset the Cavs, beat them in 5, and they upset the Knicks and beat them in 6. So both these teams get to the finals. It should be both small markets, but it should be a really, really good final. And we'll start with what both these teams need to do to win the championship. And we'll start with the favorite team. We'll start with the heavy favorite. And we'll start with OKC, the team that won 68 games this year. We'll start with OKC and what they need to do to win. And I'll start. And for me, it's pretty obvious, but SGA's got to continue to be great. SGA has got to continue to be great. If he's the MVP that he was before the season, to me, there's no way the Thunder lose. The MVP that he was this year, to me, there's no way that the Thunder lose. There's no way that the Thunder lose if SGA plays at an MVP level. So there's no way they lose. Number 2, Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams has got to be what he was in the Western Conference Finals, what he was in Game 4 of that series against the Timberwolves, hitting the big shots in Game 4 of that series. He's got to be that too. And so Jalen Williams, he's got to be that. He's got to be that Robin to SGA's Batman. And then number 3, contain Tyrese Haliburton. They did a great job. They did a great job containing Anthony Edwards in the Western Conference Finals. If they can contain Tyrese Haliburton, there's no way they'll lose. So those are my keys. My big keys for OKC are SGA, containing Haliburton, and Jalen Williams. Justin, what are your keys to OKC winning an NBA championship?
My 3 keys for OKC is. My first one is Caruso and Dort. Those are probably the 2 guys that are going to be guarding Haliburton. They gotta play physical with him. They gotta wear him down, by Game 5, Game 6, because Haliburton's so good at getting the basket. And you can wear him down. And I know those 2 guys, and Oklahoma City is a physical team, and those 2, they kind of wear him down throughout the series is going to help. My second one is also kind of defensive point for the Thunder. They got to slow down the Pacers' offense. And the Thunder thrive on creating kind of havoc and turnovers. And the Pacers are pretty good at not letting that happen. So the Thunder do have to be careful in that regard. And then kind of expanding on that point too is the Pacers excel kind of in the corner 3 stuff. And the OKC is very vulnerable in that. So just noticing throughout the playoffs, that corner shot's open for the opponent. So that's something where OKC's got to be kind of good at, because Pacers can kind of kill you from the corner. They're a pretty good shooting team from there. My third one is they got to show up on the road. They've had some clunkers. Like, again, you can't, like the Game 3 against Minnesota, you can't just show up 2-0 and lose by 40. Because the Pacers have been good on the road. I'm not saying the Pacers are going to steal one, but the Pacers have played pretty well on the road. So, for them, they got, and Pacers have been playing well. So you don't want to literally give throw the pace of free game because you don't show up for one of the road games.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to do that. And yeah, they got to defend the corner three. Yeah, they can't be getting the Pacers. They're a very good offensive team, so they got to defend. They got to defend stuff. They got to defend that corner three. They definitely do. Now for the Pacers side of this, number one, it all starts with Tyrese. It has all postseason, and it's going to continue to. It's got to all start with Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese Halliburton's got to be great, like he's been all postseason, like he was at the end of that. Like he was the end of Game 5 against the Bucks. Then he was against in the Cavalier series, being clutch in games 1 and 2. And that Knicks series, hitting the game tying shot. Then you look at Game 4. We had the triple double, and then he had a big game. He didn't have a good Game 5. You rebounded in Game 6 and got the Pacers their first NBA Finals in 25 years. So Halliburton's got to be great. Number 2, their bench. This bench has got to be better than the Thunder bench. They need to be. They need to be because they're not going to have as many home games in this series. They're not. So and usually role players. Role players don't play as well on the road. These role players have to. The TJ McConnells, the Thomas Bryants, the Obi Toppins, the Benedict Mathurin. Those guys really got to step up in the series. Their bench has got to be better than OKC's bench in the series. And then number 3, Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam, you could argue should have not been. It was very close between him and Halliburton of who should have been the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. But they both are really close. But Pascal Siakam's got to have a big series. He's got to have a big series. Him and Halliburton got to have a big series, or the Pacers will have no shot at winning the series.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I have that bench point as well. They got to win the battle of the benches because both teams are pretty deep. Both teams, have guys off the bench that they can rely on the score. But for the Pacers, I think for them to win the series, their bench has to be more. They have to outperform OKC's bench, I feel like, to kind of have a chance in this series. So I think for them, the bench is huge. My second one is you got to have somebody other than SGA beat you because I think OKC is a really good team, but I feel like at times they don't have a reliable number 2. Like I know Jalen Williams good, but Jalen Williams will have that game where he can go 1 for 8, 1 for 9, kind of struggle. Then I know Ted's been solid, but like you can't let SGA beat you. You got to let one of the other guys kind of, do some damage there. So don't let SGA beat you. And then my last one is you got to hold their own on the glass. I know Hartenstein. This might not be the series where Hartenstein and Chet are both on the floor together, but like Indiana's not a great rebounding team. I know OKC's not either, but I think OKC's a little bit better than them. And again, if you give OKC like 3-4 opportunities for second chance points or and even if they rebound on defensive end, they try to get out on the break and try to hit a 3-on-2, 2-on-1, something like that. So for Indiana too, they got to hold their own on the boards.
Yeah, you talked about it. Yeah, they definitely have to be good on the boards. Indiana's definitely gonna have to be good in that area because they were not against the Knicks. That was one thing they didn't do well against the Knicks was the Knicks did get more offensive rebounds than them. So yeah, they definitely got to be better there. They absolutely got to be better there. So yeah, and you talked about the bench. You talked about all those things for OKC for Indiana. You talked about all those things for them. And this is a series that they're not expected to win. They're not expected to win. They're an underdog. But you brought up a good point about really the Thunder not having a consistent number 2. And really, here's the thing about the Thunder: they don't have any finals experience. So this could possibly be the right time for the Pacers to play the Thunder because this might be the year to play them in the finals because in other years they're going to have the experience and they're so young too. The Thunder are so young. Their average age is like 24, so they're so young. But they really don't have experience. The 2 people with the most experience going to this NBA Finals are Rick Carlisle, who won a title in 2011, and Pascal Siakam won a title in 2019 for the Raptors.
Yeah. Was Caruso on that bubble team with the Lakers?
He was on the bubble team with the Lakers. Yes, he was. But
I know he comes off the bench. But
he came off the bench, and I think the guys because Siakam was the second best player on that team when the Raptors won it in 2019, and Rick Carlisle was the coach when the Mavs won it in 2011. And let's not forget that was a series they weren't supposed to win.
Yeah, no, they weren't supposed to in that series. So, yeah, so like I brought up Caruso because he's probably the oldest guy on that team, so he does have the most experience. I know he's not like he's a good defender guy, good defender, but so like OKC's the only team. I think you brought up a great point that this is probably the best time to get OKC the next couple of years because they still have all their draft picks too. So like they're gonna add more talent. They can in the draft. They probably have some money left over too. So yeah, this OKC team is only going to get better within the next couple of years. So yeah, this is the best time to kind of get them in this year where yeah, maybe they're a little bit more, they are a little bit more inexperienced. And yeah, the Pacers have some experience with Siakam to win a title, Rick Carlisle as well. So yeah, absolutely. This is kind of the best year to get a young OKC team where we've seen them have their lapses at time, for a game or two this so far in the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we have, yeah, as you mentioned, game 3 against the Timberwolves. They blew one against the Nuggets. They definitely have had their lapses. They definitely have. So yeah, there's a time to get the Thunder. This is it. But speaking of the Thunder and speaking of SGA, he was the MVP this year, and the big question is going into this. The question is going into the series. If the Thunder win, is he the second? Is he the? I mean, obviously Jokic has the best player in the league. There's no argument about that. But if the Thunder win, is SGA the second best player in the NBA? And I would say no. I would still give it to Giannis. I feel like Giannis is more accomplished, even though SGA is a better shooter than him. I think Giannis is a little bit better defensively, and I think he's more accomplished. So I would probably still go Giannis, but I would definitely say if he wins this title, SGA is definitely top 3. I'm definitely taking him over Luka because I think that ring means I'm going to take him over Steph now. I'm going to take him over Tatum. If he wins this championship, if SGA wins this title, I probably would say he's top 3, not the second best player in the league, but I would say he's top 3. If the Thunder win the title, I'm going to put him top 3.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have top 3 as well because I with Jokic, obviously he's the best in the world, and I still take Giannis too because of the size. He's what is he, 6'9", 6'10", and he can kind of guard multiple positions. I know, yeah, he's not a great shooter, but I like that just kind of the size as well. And he's just so good at kind of getting the basket. I know SGA's as well, but again, that Bucks team didn't have a ton. If you put something, if you put more around him, that Bucks team is definitely better. Again, maybe he gets traded this offseason, who knows? But yeah, I'd still take Giannis over SGA. I still think he's a little bit more I definitely agree with you too with that he's a little bit more accomplished right now than SGA.
I think he is. But SGA is a phenomenal player, and there's a very good chance he's going to win his first championship. The Clippers, they got to be sick about this. They got to be sick about trading for Paul George and trading him away. And that also in that trade was Jalen Williams, their second best player. So that was the Thunder. There's no question the Thunder got the better of that deal. Now moving on to the Pacers, another player that was traded for, and that's Tyrese Halliburton. Would a win in the finals, would an upset win make him a top 10 player in the league? If the Pacers win the championship, is Halliburton a top 10 player? And I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say yes. And here's why. All the clutch moments he's had. I think he's had, so many clutch moments. He had that. It started in Game 5 against the Bucks when he was a huge part of that comeback. Then he was a huge part of the comeback against the Cavs in Game 2. He hit the big shot to put them up 1. And then we all saw Game 1 against the Knicks. We all saw Game 1 against the Knicks, the comeback that the Pacers made, and Halliburton hit the big shot there. So he's hit so many big shots in this postseason. He's great at making guys around him better. Yes. The one biggest knock on him is he sometimes doesn't take over games the way he should. Like in Game 5, he had 8 points in Game 5 against the Knicks. So he doesn't take over games like he should. But if he somehow leads them to this upset win and he's the best player on the team, because there's in the last 40 years in the NBA, there have been very, very few teams, maybe the 2004 Pistons and the 2014 Spurs, that didn't have a top 10 player on their team and won a championship. So I would say yes. I would say yes. If the Pacers win the title, I am putting Halliburton in the top 10. And I'm not overreacting to that either.
No, I agree with you because I think in this series for Tyrese Halliburton, for the Pacers to win this series, he has to play outstanding. I know they have Siakam, but they need both those guys to be on. I feel like
Halliburton can't have the game like he did in Game 3 and Game 5 against the Knicks and think they're going to win this series.
Yeah, because I feel like if SGA has a couple off nights, the Thunder could still win this series. I think there's they have the more talented team. Where I think if Halliburton has 1 or 2 off nights, where you mentioned the Game 5 against the Knicks, where he only had 8 points. I think he took 6 shots in that game. If he does that, they're not winning that game and they're not winning the series. So for the Pacers to win this series, Tyrese Halliburton has to go off. Same thing with Siakam. So I'd put him in that top 10 because then he's at the title. He's made guys around him better. You've mentioned the clutch moments he's had. He's a good shooter. He's good at getting the basket. So I'd put him up there in the top 10. With the guys, I wouldn't argue against it because he's got to have a tremendous year to win this title.
Yeah. He has to be phenomenal. He has to be absolutely phenomenal for the Pacers to win their first NBA championship. And now our series prediction. I think this series will be closer than people think. I do think the Pacers will play better in the series than people think. I mean, I do think they're going to get the Pacers will get. A lot of people think they'll get only one game or they'll get swept. I think the Pacers will get 2 games here. I think they'll split. I think they'll steal one in OKC. I think they'll win one in Indiana. But at the end of the day, the Thunder. I know that the Pacers have the more experienced coach, Rick Carlisle, and that could help them in the series. That might help them stay in this series. But I don't think it's enough because to me, the Thunder are the best team, are clearly the best team in the NBA, and they're clearly the better team in the series. They got the better star with Tyrese Halliburton. To me, they're the deeper team. I think if you're drafting, Holmgren, Jalen Williams, and SGA, you're taking those 3 guys. And if you're the first 5 guys you're taking this series are SGA, Siakam, Halliburton, Holmgren, and Jalen Williams. So I think they have the better. I think they have the better starting 5. I think they have the better depth. And they won both games in this series. So I just think they're clearly the better team overall. I'm gonna go with them here. I'm going Thunder in 6. I got the Thunder beating the Pacers. I'm giving the Pacers 2 games, but at the end of the day, I got to go with the better team, the team that won 68 games this year. I got the Thunder beating the Pacers in 6 games.
Yeah, I have the Thunder in 5 in this one. I think, again, you meant the Thunder, they were 29-1, I believe, against the Eastern Conference this year. Like they dominated the Eastern Conference. I think the one game the Pacers are going to get is like either in game 3 or game 4, and they shoot like 18 for 40 from 3. And they just have one of those nights where we've seen they could catch fire. I think that's the game they're going to win. I just think this OKC team it's a phenomenal team. They're deep. I think the size, Jalen Williams, I think he's gonna have a pretty good series. SGA's gonna have a solid series. I think Indiana's a really good team. I just think this OKC team just has a little bit more talent. Just has more talent than Indiana. And I think I wouldn't be shocked if some of these games are like really close, go down the wire. But I just think OKC takes care of business. I think this is I think Dort and Caruso do a pretty good job on Halliburton to kind of contain him. And Siakam plays pretty well, but maybe in the road games, the Pacers bench just doesn't get the production that they need to win, just to help them get over the hump. So I got the Thunder winning in 5 games.
Yeah, I think we both got the Thunder. I got them in 6. You got them in 5. Should be an interesting series that starts tomorrow night. But we got to get to some big news around the NBA and big news with the team that was eliminated by the Pacers, and that's the Knicks. And yesterday, they fired Tom Thibodeau. And I'm not completely shocked, but I am surprised seeing Brunson's comments. And as a Knicks fan, I am surprised seeing Brunson's comments after Game 6. I mean, seeing his comments after Game 6, and the fact that the Knicks made it to the conference finals for the first time in a quarter century. So the question is this the right move? And it's not the right move. I feel like this coach has been good. They've had sustained success. The Knicks had not had sustained success since the late 90s, early 2000s. This is the most sustained success they had, and a big part of it was because of Tom Thibodeau. He made the playoffs 4 times, got to the, he won 4 playoff series in the last 2 years, 4 playoff series, and now they're getting rid of him. To me, I don't like this move at all. I really don't. I know it's probably going to be between Johnny Bryant and Michael Malone for the next head coach, but I felt like things were going in the right direction with Thibodeau. I really did. So to me, this is not the right move for the Knicks going forward. I don't think this is the right move for the Knicks going forward.
No, I agree with you. And again, I know exactly where you're coming from. I think both our NBA organizations are ran pretty similar. Because I think this is dome. This is absolutely a dome play because it doesn't. Yeah.
Because Leon Rose is Tom Thibodeau's agent.
Yeah. That, and he just got the extension. Why would Leon fire him after he just progressed more than he just, like he just got an extension. He just got him a conference finals. It just doesn't make sense for them to, like unless if it's stolen, which I think it is, and that's a problem. I've been because I get it. I have an owner too that thinks he's smarter than he thinks he's a lot smarter than he actually is, and I thought it was a horrible move. I think a guy like I know when kind of text about it, you brought up the bench and like I know every day concern, but it's like he's never played a bench. Like why that seems to be a problem now, I just doesn't make any sense because he's always been that way. He was that way with the Bulls, as well. So I think it's a horrible move. And like I know it's Malone. Like if you really fire Tom Thibodeau to bring in Johnny Bryant, who's never been a head coach in his life, to like coach this team that again is they need some they need they gotta there's some tweaking that they have to do to be like to be like right there for title contender, be one of the but like I just don't think Johnny Brown would be the smart play. But just Malone, I could see it. But again, there's a part of me where I see this too in the Kings. Like they want a championship level coach. They don't get like Malone. Who else is out there? Like I know Budenholzer's won one, but like I don't think you'd be very happy if it's Mike Budenholzer on the sidelines in October. So
No.
you're getting yourself maybe a little bit how hard if Malone for some reason doesn't want it, or I don't know if somebody else is out there that he'd take a job ahead of him. So I don't think it's a smart move by the Knicks, and I agree. Like it took a couple steps forward. Now it feels like you're taking a couple steps back.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. They did take steps forward, and now I think they're taking steps backwards. Not having a coach going, and then you look at the Eastern Conference. There's a very good chance it could be Knicks Pacers next year. I mean, the Celtics aren't going to be there. The Cavs, you can't trust them in the playoffs. I mean, the Bucks, Giannis is probably going to be gone. I mean, it is a very good chance it could be Knicks Pacers next year. And is Tom Thibodeau as good as Rick Carlisle? No, but say you improve your bench. You could be right. You were right there with the Pacers this year. If you won game one, there's a very good chance you win that series. So to me, this just as we said, it makes no sense to do this. It just does. It doesn't. And as you said about like potential replacements, it probably should be Michael Malone because he's won a championship. Johnny Bryant, as you said, has no head coaching experience.
Yeah. And then again, you go down the list, like, all right, I don't think Hurley's taking it. Yeah. But like, even if you brought in Dan Hurley, he's never coached an NBA game in his life.
Yeah.
Like you really would, because again, he's probably further down the list. I think they would offer it. I think he'd take it, but I think he's further down the list. But like, that's again, he would be a risk. Like, I think if it's not like a Michael Malone, I think anybody, it's a risk now because now you have a first year head coach and now it's like, well, you got to get at least to like, it's tough for coming off a conference final. It's tough for a first year coach to come in and get everything going and then have to try to get back there, get forward. It almost feels too like when the Yankees fired Girardi. Like it was like it was going to happen.
That's a great comparison. And when the Yankees fired Girardi, they were one win away from the World Series. It was kind of the same scenario, pretty much.
Yeah, and it's an order. I know what they said with Girardi was like, he was gone no matter what. And it seemed like this was in the works for a while. I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought if they lost to Detroit, I could see it. But
they lost to Detroit, it definitely was going to happen. If they lost to Detroit, it was definitely happening.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's where I think Dan Harrell probably would have been the number one candidate. But now I don't think he can in this scenario. But yeah, so it made no sense. I was surprised, but also like I know how the Knicks operate. Like I know Dolan stayed away mostly from the Knicks, or he's been more involved with the Rangers, but for whatever reason, he wants his pulse on it and he wants a championship. I know he's been waiting for the Rangers in the last couple of years. We kind of thought they were going to get over the hump, and they haven't. And now he smells it with the Knicks and is thinking that firing Thibodeau is the right idea, which is not. He's going to learn very quickly somehow.
Yeah, which is crazy. And you made a good point with the Knicks. This is a Knick move. This is a Knick move. They finally get sustained success, and James Dolan does something like this. Finally, you have you have sustained success. The Garden's rocking. You're getting it back to what it was, in the late 90s, early 2000s, or the 90s when they faced the Bulls and Pacers in those big series. You finally have it back to what it was. And then you make a move like this. I mean, what do you want? Because you're not in the NBA Finals, you want the headlines? You want to steal the headlines? I mean, it's such a head scratching move. It's just so head scratching that you get to the conference finals and you're probably going to be a top 2 team in the East next year because with the Pacers, and you end up making a move like this. It's just tough. It's just tough. I mean, you should be celebrating a season like this, and now it's funny. 72 hours after the season, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, it is, and yeah, and I know the Knicks are in a much different place than the Kings are, but like when they fired Mike Brown, his extension didn't kick in until like this upcoming year. They did it, and it was an overreaction because they weren't playing well towards Christmas. But like we're 30 games in, and then that's it. Again, we're back to rebuilding. Like we're back.
Yep.
Fox is gone now. Like again, I'm not saying you're going to go back to rebuilding, but like again, it's very possible now. Maybe you take a step back, and you don't ever get back to that point. And that's what we're learning as Kings fans right now. That how much of an overreaction that was. That they were in a bad 6-game stretch, and I get it. It's an overreaction. I think by Dolan, it's going to be if it's not Mike Malone, it's going to be a mistake because And the other thing is too, because Brunson Zad's pretty much the offensive coach, right? Like you're not firing him. Like he's going to have to stay on the staff, and like that's going to have to be your offensive coach, you like it or not. You probably can't go in and demote him. I don't think he'd be too happy. It's probably not going to make Jalen Brunson happy. So, it's just such an overreaction there, and because Leon's done such a great job too, and I know maybe the Bridges move hasn't totally panned out with giving up the 5 first-round picks, but like he's allowed one mulligan. So, it feels like everything was in place, and now it's like the owners got to get involved again, and that's been the problem with Dolan.
Yeah, it is. And people say, Thibodeau doesn't use his bench. He started to adjust in that Pacers series. He started to play 9. He started to play DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet more. He adjusted. He changed the starting lineup. He made adjustments in that series. So to say he doesn't use the bench, that's inaccurate because he started to use the bench. I know it was very late. It was really late when he did, but he did use the bench at the end of that, in the middle to the end of that Pacers series. So yeah, it is frustrating if you have a season like this, and then you're pretty much coachless right now. And to me, Michael Malone is definitely my first choice. He's won a championship. His dad was an assistant with the Knicks. He grew up in New York. To me, Michael Malone is my first choice.
Yeah, no, I agree. Can I interest you in Rick Pitino?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I saw it happen. I saw his last NBA tenure in Boston. Absolutely not.
Yeah, I don't wouldn't be shocked maybe if he tries to go interview for that job. I would love to see that happen because I know all the St. John fans want Hurley to go. So it'd be funny if it all came back in the face and it was Rick Pitino.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll see what ends up happening though. We'll see, and we'll see what the Knicks do with their head coach. But we got a series between the Yankees and Red Sox this weekend in the Bronx. But before we talk about that, we are going to hear from our friends at JPEG Financial and Shamrock Home Inspections.
Do you have a 401k and some savings for future retirement, but don't even know if it's enough to live off of? How much is enough? How often are you thinking about it? The team at JPEX Financial Group can help set your mind at ease. We specialize in creating strategies in the planning and managing of your financial, educational, and investment needs. We help clients pursue their investment goals with sound financial strategies. You deserve a personal, tailored plan. Lasting, meaningful, and open relationships are the foundation of our practice. You've worked hard for your money and should feel confident in your investment choices as you make decisions for your financial future. Your goals are our goals. We are dedicated to your needs and hopes for your future. Visit our website and give us a call at 860-430-5397. Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. JPEX Financial Group, LLC is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services. JPEX Financial Group is located at 78 Eastern Boulevard, Glastonbury, Connecticut. There's no bigger investment than home ownership. And to make sure the house is up to your standards, you need a professional to look it over. Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections is a licensed home inspector and a member of the Connecticut Association of Home Inspectors. Brian was a contractor for over 15 years, so he knows how homes should be constructed and how mechanicals should work.
What makes me a good home inspector was the 20 years that I was a home improvement person, doing all the different repairs that I have done and what other people have done wrong that I had to go out and fix. So I have a pretty quick eye on seeing what's right and what's wrong. Before you move, call Shamrock Home Inspections.
Before you make the biggest investment of your life, call Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections at 860-268-2566 or visit shamrockhomeinspectionct.com.
All right, we're back. We had a little bit of a technical glitch there. We're back, and we got a series in the Bronx this week between the Yankees and Red Sox. We both teams kind of going in opposite directions. Yankees in first place. Red Sox right now are third, 29. What's the score? 1-0. Wow, they're already down
1-0. Nobody out for the Angels. First and third, nobody out.
Oh wow. So yeah, one out or 1-0 Angels in the first.
Yep. No outs. First and third.
Wow. So yeah, it's both teams kind of going opposite directions. Red Sox 10 games out. 5 games under 500, and then getting into this weekend. I mean, you start on Friday's game with Walker Buehler against Will Warren, Yarborough against Crochet, and Dobbins against Rodon. Luckily for the Red Sox, they don't have to face Max Fried, but it's going to be a brutal series for them in the Bronx. It's going to be a tough series for them. I can't see the Yankees losing. I can't see the Yankees losing more. Less. I see them winning, at least winning 2 out of 3 here. I see them at least winning 2 out of 3 over the Red Sox. I at least see them doing it because the Red Sox are just not playing well. Their defense has been awful. They no depth in the rotation. Bregman's out, and Meyer has struggled since when he started. Really, the big question is when is Anthony going to come up for them? So. Yeah, I think this is 2 out of 3 for the Yankees. I think the only game they might lose is Saturday with Crochet pitching.
Yeah, 4-0 out. Taylor Ward just went yard. So
wow, crazy. Yep.
Yeah, problematic. I'm actually more concerned about this series because what I saw from Will Warren, I don't really trust him, and I could see the Red Sox offense waking up against Will Warren and putting it on a light display. And then Saturday night, I could see them losing. I know Yarborough, I figured the Yankees were going to get swept Sunday. I did not think Yarborough was going to put on the performance that he did. But, going up against Crochet's been really the only reliable pitcher that they can count on right now. So I could totally see them losing Friday, Saturday. I hope not, because if you're the Yankees, you could absolutely just put them, maybe 12-13 back already. But they should take 2 out of 3, but I am a little bit concerned because I don't want Will Warren pitching in the postseason. I'm like that out on him now because the 5 starts that he made that he looked pretty good were against 5 of the worst offense. I think it was the Mariners, the Rangers offense that has not been good all year. The Rays offense isn't great, and like the A's offense. So like in Colorado. So I don't trust Will Warren. So I could see Buehler out pitching him in Friday night, but they should take 2 out of 3. The way the Red Sox are playing right now, and yeah, you mentioned the errors. Since 2023, they have 20 more errors than like anybody else in the sport right now. So, and they have the most errors right now in the league, even ahead of Colorado. So yeah, things aren't great. The Yankees should take 2 out of 3, but man, I'm a little concerned.
I just wouldn't be concerned about this series. The way the Red Sox are playing, we'll get to them a little bit later. We'll get more in depth on them a little bit later. But the way the Red Sox are playing, I'm not that concerned. I really am not about this series. I'm not. I know because the thing is, even if Warren loses, they could win the Crochet game on Saturday. And I get your point about Will Warren. Will Warren was awful on Saturday on Saturday against the Dodgers. Awful. Yeah, and I do hope he eventually gets out of this rotation because he hasn't been good. He just hasn't been good. And you were right. They could lose that game, but the thing is, like the Yankees could hit Walker Buehler. I think they could hit Buehler because Buehler's been average this year for the Red Sox. So,
Last time I saw him.
Oh, I know. I know. I'm aware of that in the World Series. I know, but yeah, I just think I'm very confident. I'm confident the Yankees take 2 or 3, and then say the Yankees win one of the next 2 days, they could have like an 11.5, 12-game lead on the Red Sox in the middle of June.
Yeah, they could, and hey, you won 4 of the next 6 when you play the Sox, and you're really you put them 15 back, and yeah, then you're starting to ask a lot of questions about Boston. So about what's going on. So yeah, they should. Again, I think Yarborough could kind of hang in there against Crochet. It's you're not gonna be able to make many mistakes against Crochet and get away with it. And sounds like Tua Crochet, because they have some off days coming up. Sounds like too like Core will kind of let him go. Like I think he pitched 112 already this year. It sounds like Core's gonna let him go 95 plus. So he could get pretty deep into this game too, especially the Yankees have some bad at bats early and some first pitch swinging type stuff. So they could go pretty deep, with Crochet, it sounds like. So yeah, I think for the Yankees, you gotta take 2 out of 3 this week against this Red Sox team. But I'm very more pessimistic about this Yankees team than you. And I don't know. Well, especially after this weekend. I'm like, yeah, maybe they made the American League. I don't see this team being the Dodgers. They're not being the Dodgers. It's the best of 7. I just don't see it.
Yeah, and there was reason to be pessimism seeing the injury that went on this week with Luke Weaver. But why are you so pessimistic? They have the second best record in the American League. Why are you pessimistic about this team?
The bullpen blew Friday night. Like Friday night's inexcusable. You can't. And like even Fried, I know he gave us some hard hit stuff. I worry about Williams. I worry about the rotation a little bit. I don't like Warren. You're gonna get Stroman back. Like Stroman can't be in this rotation. I just don't. But he might have to be. And there's Rodon's been great. He's not as emotionally used to be. I really wanted to see him pitch Sunday night because I wanted to see what he would do against that Dodger offense. Because there's still a little bit of concern with me with Carlos Rodon in the game 2 of a postseason series. I'm still a little bit concerned there. And then also with the lineup, like, yeah, it's good. Judge is fine. He's gonna hit in the postseason. Like A-Rod was the same thing, 409. They won the World Series. So it's more of like, I just don't trust the bottom of the lineup still. And like that Dodger team just 1 through 9, like when they're on like Max Muncy is right now and Tommy Edman, that's just such a scary lineup. And I just don't see the Yankees stacking up with them. I could see that thing in 5. And then again, they're just not fundamentally sound. And again, Boone just says that doesn't matter. So that's not getting fixed. So I just don't think it's a great matchup for them.
Yeah, the Dodgers. Yeah, I think the Dodgers are a little bit in the Yankees' heads. I'll give you that. I'm happy they got they did, but listen, they did hit Yamamoto on. You have to give it to them. They did hit Yamamoto on Sunday. They have to give it to them there. But speaking of the bullpen, though, Luke Weaver out pretty much a month and a half. I think this is a big loss. I think it is. I think this is definitely going to be now. I think they'll still win the AL East and everything, but I think I think there's going to be some games that are going to be blown. And Devin Williams last night, yeah, he got the save, but it was a typical Devin Williams save where he gave up a run and they had to hang on.
Yeah, it was. I'm with you. I think the next 4 to 6 weeks is going to test us a lot. Their blood pressure in the 9th inning, because you're going to blow some games. He, for a reason, can't get comfortable in the 9th inning. It had because he's fine in the 8th inning. The only thing I could think of is it has to be that Alonso home run is still just in his head, and he just. But why does that concern him in the 8th? I don't know. It's just odd that he's just been so bad in the 9th inning. Because again, Luke Weaver is great and he can give you a couple innings. I know they got Cruz back, his splitter's nasty, but they definitely need another arm in that bullpen because even like Tim Hill hasn't been as good this year. I kind of worry. Now obviously the worry with Williams too is a concern. So kind of the late inning. So even like Loizaga, he wasn't sharp this weekend. So even him that somebody last couple years can rely on. He hasn't looked great either since coming off the IL. So I'm concerned with him too.
Yeah. The bullpen is definitely a concern. The bullpen is definitely a concern. But this team's still in really good shape. The second best record in the AL, first place in the AL East. They're still in really, really good shape. They're in much better shape than the team we're going to talk about now. And that is the Boston Red Sox. And last night, after their second loss in a row to the Angels, and it looks like they're on their third loss. Was there an altercation I saw with Tyler Anderson or something? I thought I saw like there might have been an altercation.
Oh, this morning, yes. I guess the Angels pitching coach and the Red Sox first base coach had a little altercation, but I guess it
Gotcha.
de-escalated pretty quickly.
Gotcha. But so now let's get back to the Red Sox and Cora making some of his comments last night. I mean, they were pretty telling. I mean, saying that we're not getting better. Talking about the defense, talking about the team struggling right now, and there's a lot of struggle with the Red Sox, and it doesn't help them that Alex Bregman isn't in that lineup. So their lineup is worse. Their rotation doesn't have depth. Their bullpen has been shaky at times this year. Even though Chapman's been good, their bullpen's been shaky. This is the Red Sox. Let's be honest, the Red Sox have underachieved. A lot of people thought they were going to be, getting Bregman. I mean, no Bregman's hurt, but getting Bregman, getting Crochet. They thought, this is a potential playoff team. The way they're playing right now, they are not even close to a playoff team. They've lost 7 out of 9. They are not close to a playoff team right now. And the big question is Alex Cora's job in the line? And I think it definitely is.
Yeah, it's issue right now. For me with Cora, I think I said this last week. I think Henry Warren have so much respect for him that I think their last resort would be fire him in season. It's definitely going to be like Andrew Bailey or Pete Fassi, the head coach, that are going to be the scapegoats first and see if that fixes anything, and then Cora. Because remember when they fired Bloom, there was talk of Cora getting the president of baseball ops job, and he was going to take over that and kind of leave the managerial duty. So I think they have a ton of respect for him in that organization. So I think the last thing they want to do is to can him. But yeah, this thing really spirals because for me, the cleanest game that they played all year was a game he did not manage against the Mets because of his daughter's graduation. They were good on the base pass. They had no errors. I'm not saying but again, that's just one game. But it was pretty clean, and the way that call is sounding, it's not helping his case. But again, his call isn't to bring up I would if you'd ask him point blank and you have to answer truthfully, he'd say, yeah, we could really use a spark with Roman Anthony right now. That's on Craig Bledsoe. I don't know why they're not calling him up because this team desperately needs a spark. Maybe it's after today, so that hey, we go in the Yankee Stadium, we have some extra juice with us. Maybe that's her idea. I don't know, but it's bleak. And the thing is, too, because who is that leader, too, in that clubhouse that's calling the meeting? Because Bregman just got back to the team last night, but he's injured. He can probably maybe still call it, but I don't think it's that. I think Devers lost a lot of respect in that clubhouse after what he said about not moving on first base. Because when he said that, too, he was in the clubhouse. So, all those guys heard it. I don't think that was a great sign. Who else on the I don't know who the leaders in that clubhouse. I don't know who's calling that meeting right now. So that's another thing. I don't know who the captain is in there. So there's a lot of issues right now. And yeah, it's only seems like it's getting bad to worse right now. Because yeah, an Angels team that's not great is about to come in and potentially sweep you. And the Monday night too, actually, it's the first time all year. I mean, first time in the history of Fenway that the visiting team came in and hit three home runs in the first inning in the history of Fenway, which I thought was pretty crazy. So, but yeah, 17 of the 34 losses this year by 1 run. So I guess you could also say, well, the script has to change at some point, but you got down 6-0 on Monday night. You did you almost did come back. So yeah, there's a lot of issues right now, and it's brutal.
Yeah, for the Red Sox, it absolutely is. It absolutely is a bunch of issues. Things are not going right, and yeah, I just think that this season they again there's, as I said last week, there's 75, 78 wins. I think they got to move on from the manager. I think they do because as I said last week, in the 7 years he's done a really good job. I'll give him that. But in the 7 years he's been the manager, they've only made the playoffs twice. The year they won the World Series in 2018, and the year they got to the ALCS in 2021. So I think eventually, you can't just keep blaming Chaim Bloom, and you can't keep blaming ownership. Eventually, it's you. And yeah, I know Bregman's hurt, but even when he was healthy, this was a 500 team. This team was underachieving when Bregman was healthy. So eventually, it's you. And I think if they're under 500, I think Alex Cora is going to be the guy that has to walk the plank.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked, especially if it's another long summer in Boston and the rumors already kind of started, or not the talk of already of the seat warming up too. So you're gonna have to deal with that all summer. And yeah, because ownership finally got a little bit of a little bit more in the good graces of the fans because they went out and got Bregman. They re-signed Crochet. They went, so like they finally spent some money. And man, if this thing goes like a 70-win team, is ownership ever going to want to spend money again? Like maybe not in the next
No,
couple of
no,
years.
no,
You
no,
know,
no.
they got what the Manchester. Henry owns a ton of more teams outside of Boston. So,
Yep.
so it's an issue. So I wouldn't be shocked. And yeah, I know that he's got a ton of respect there. They even hung on to him after the suspension in 20, being part of the Astros scandal. So I was a ton of respect there for him. I think he's a pretty good manager. But yeah, they might be. I think it's a last resort. So I wouldn't be shocked if they were to move on from him.
Me neither. Me neither. Me neither. But we got to move on to the Stanley Cup final, and that begins tonight. Is a rematch of last year between the Panthers and the Oilers. Panthers beat the Oilers. The Panthers were up 3-0. Oilers tied the series, and the Panthers ended up beating them in 7 games. And we'll start with the Panthers. And Justin, what do the Panthers have? They're in their 3rd straight Stanley Cup final. What do the Panthers have to do to repeat? Repeat as Stanley Cup as Stanley Cup as champions. What do the Panthers got to do to repeat as champions?
For me, what the Panthers have to do is kind of, both teams' contract styles. The Panthers got to enforce their kind of style of play in game 1 or 2. They want to physically wear you down. They want to, as the series moves on, they want you to make more mistakes. They want you to turn the puck over more. So that's kind of what they do in game 1 and game 2 to kind of wear you down, and they have the depth to be able to kind of do that. My second one is excel on the special teams. In the Stanley Cup, the refs usually swallow the whistle, which I like, but maybe those couple key special teams, kind of those moments are a little bit more kind of crucial. They're 88% this postseason on the PK, and they're 23% on the power play. So, and again, the Panthers have 6 defensemen that they could, or 6 defense forwards that they could roll out there in the PK, and you're going up against a really good power play in the Edmonton. So that's the second one. And the third one is the Stars do have to show up. Barkov leading team right now like 17 points in the playoffs, but Bennett leads the league right now in the postseason with 10 goals, and Matthew Tkachuk has 16 points so far. So, and 7 of those came in the Eastern Conference Finals. So like he's starting to heat up, and so like their stars they have the depth, but their stars do need to show up like they have and continue to kind of be the they got to continue in timely goals, timely assists, and kind of all that.
Yeah, they definitely do. They definitely do. Now moving over to the Oilers side, the Oilers trying to trying to get revenge from what happened last year. What do the Oilers got to do to get revenge on the Panthers?
So same thing I talked about right with the Panthers with the style of play. They got to win the battle in game 1 and game 2, wear you down, because they're a lot more physical than they were last year. Their defensemen I think are a little bit better than last year. My second one is the depth. That has to continue to be a factor. Not counting McDavid or Draisaitl. They already have 6 guys this year that have scored at least 5 goals this postseason. Like that wasn't really the case last year. They kind of struggled in that area to find the other guys to step up. So those guys in the depth have to play well. Then my third one is Stuart Skinner. He got benched, I think, for 6-7 games. Pritchard got hurt, the backup. He came back in. He's been unbelievable since, and he's got to play well again. I gave kind of the numbers last week in games 4 through 7 in the post, in the last 2 years in the postseason. And again, he's got to just because he's going up against Bobrovsky, who's one of the best, so he's gonna have to outplay him. He's been awesome, and he's looked a lot better since he looks really locked in right now in the net. So he's got to continue. He's gonna have to outdo Bobrovsky in the series.
Yeah, in the NHL. There's no doubt about that. Now, on the other side, you got Connor McDavid. He got to a final last year. The best player in hockey. What would a Stanley Cup championship? What would that do for Connor McDavid's legacy?
I think it would be enormous, and he's the best one in the sport. I know Ovechkin's getting a little bit older, but like he's kind of becoming I think he's been like the new face of the NHL. Because he is such a special player. And like he scored the game-winning goal this year in the Four Nations. He's a Toronto kid. If he's the one that delivers and brings the cup back to Canada, especially just what it would do um for that country would be insane. Because like not to get into politics, but like Gretzky right now, because he is friends with Trump, he's not very well liked in Canada. Like they've been defacing his statue. So like I'm not saying he get the like he'll be probably more liked than he's probably already more liked at the moment than Gretzky, but like he'd become a huge figure in that country because Calgary's probably not rooting for him. Maybe not even Vancouver, but the rest of Canada is going to be cheering for Edmonton. Like it would be a huge thing to cement his legacy and to bring the cup back to Canada would be such a special thing. For that country and for him. So it would be huge. And again, it would you know it would be huge for him to get that kind of monkey off the back.
Yeah, and you talk about the country of Canada not having a cup winner since 1993. That's crazy. A hockey crazed a country like Canada hasn't had a Stanley Cup winner since '93. But it is kind of fitting because Canada did win the Four Nations face-off. It would be kind of fitting if finally a Canadian team won a Canadian team won a Stanley Cup.
Oh yeah, it would be. It would be because there's a lot of I thought maybe U.S. could be Canada, and not yet. Maybe next year in the Olympics we'll get them. But yeah, it would mean a lot, and I bet for him too. And I think last year, like the first 3 games, I think maybe a little starstruck being in that moment, and kind of took a couple games for them to kind of get their legs underneath them. And then the last 3, they won 3 straight. They couldn't get Game 7, but like they had a heck of a comeback. So yeah, I think it's a team that is right there. And something I've always heard with like Toronto and like Matthews and kind of that court of art, like they don't hate losing enough to want to win the cup. But like McDavid, Leon are kind of built different. Where like last year, again, you kind of saw it with McDavid afterwards. Like I'm gonna ton. And again, I think those guys are pushing hard that they don't want to feel that losing feeling again in this series.
Yeah, I think they definitely want revenge. And now we'll get to the series prediction. Is it going to be the Oilers getting revenge? Kind of similar to 08-09 with the Penguins and the Red Wings. But that series was kind of flipped. That's one team. That's where the team that lost got revenge. Do the Oilers in this series? Do the Oilers get their revenge, or do the Panthers go back to back?
I got the Oilers. I'm going to go in 6 games. The Panthers are really good. They're still really deep, but I think this Oilers team's better than they were last year. I know the Panthers added Marchand, Seth Jones, and they both fit perfectly with their style, but there's just something about this Edmonton team. Like they were dead. They like the Kings. I don't remember Game 4 in the first round. It was 2-1 Kings. They're about to go up 3-1, and the Kings coach it was a dumb challenge. The game was pretty much over. And if you don't win your challenge, you got to go on the kill. And that's when Edmonton kind of woke up on the power play. They scored a couple of goals there, and they didn't lose again that series. And they've been rolling ever since. So this that Edmonton team was, should have been down 3-1, and they've been outstanding since. And I do think there's something about this Edmonton team that seems different this year. And Skinner's been a lot better. And I think Edmonton wins the 6 games.
I'm going to go Edmonton in 7. It happened in 09. The team got revenge. I think that team gets revenge again. I'm going to go with the Oilers in 7 to win the Canada's first Stanley Cup in over 30 years. But we'll wrap up the show talking about Stefan Diggs and the the photo we had on the boat and the yacht. Last week he's back. He was at voluntary OTAs this week. You're the Patriot fan. How big of a deal is this? I think it's a little bit of a concern, but I don't think it's a huge deal yet.
Yeah, I didn't love it. I didn't love seeing that. I know the OTAs are an optional thing, but like I know he's still rehabbing. I would have loved to see him out there with Drake May because catching passes, getting working. Because the other thing is too, he hasn't technically to get the money or for that contract to be finalized. He has to pass his physical, and he hasn't yet. So like the Patriots could cut him and not owe him anything. So that was a risk on him. But yeah, I think Vrabel, Dan McDaniel's kind of they're going to handle it internally. I don't think it's going to be a huge thing, but I wasn't a huge fan of it. I didn't think it was a great look, but he does have. I like Diggs. I'm a little worried putting the trust in him as a number one, but I don't think it's a huge deal. I just didn't really like the look of it, and again, just has to be careful because he doesn't pass physical, he gets cut, and he ain't getting that contract that he just got.
No, he's not. And yeah, it isn't a good look, but I'm not, because it was voluntary OTAs. I'm not saying it's a huge deal yet, but this could be a potential distraction for them, and this isn't going to be a good. If this doesn't work, this isn't a good look on Elliott Wolf, because seeing what they could have had in the offseason, seeing that they could have traded for a DK Metcalf, they could have maybe signed a Cooper Kupp, or even signed I know Godwin. They offered Godwin they offered Godwin a contract, but they could have potentially got Chris Godwin too.
Yeah, they could have. I know with Metcalf, they wanted Metcalf, but I guess he didn't want to play in New England.
Yeah.
I don't know how true that is, but I guess that's what the Patriots said. Or I think that somebody had something about he didn't want to play in New England. Because I would have loved Metcalf. I would even love Cooper Kupp. I like Diggs, and there could have been a better option out there. And if it could come back on Elliott Wolf if this doesn't kind of end well and something what else would pop up. You would hope after this he'd be a lot more careful when it posts these things on social media, but you never know. It's some of these celebrities, because he does have to be careful, and it could be a bad look on Elliott too if this thing doesn't, and for some reason if he doesn't pass physical whenever he's got to get that done. I forget when it is, but wouldn't be great.
It would not be at all. It would not be at all. But that's going to wrap it up this week on Sports Talk with R&J. For Justin and Alfredo, I'm Steve Risser. We will be back next week talking about the NBA Finals, because we'll be in the middle of the NBA Finals, talking about the Yankees and Red Sox, because they have another series at Fenway Park. Red Sox can be done by that point for the way they're playing.
Yeah,
and we'll be talking more about the Stanley Cup Finals. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Hello, my name is Joe Aguirre. I'm the president of Clovercrest Media Group. And here at CMG, we have a wide variety of podcasts, including sports shows like Keys to the City, The Roll Call, Throwing Jabs, All Four Downs, and Jawing About the G-Men. And great true crime shows like Sticky Week, Crimes and Consequences, Ivy League Murders, and Burn, the unsolved murder of David Eichmann. You can find all these podcasts and so much more by visiting clovercrestmedia.com.